Oluwaseun, and together we want to look at these issues, and they all will be engaging you.
Sure.
I got fascinated a little bit about you some time ago, but recently I saw something on your Instagram, your response to security matters in your state on the floor, and something that fascinated me from that response was you said there cannot be peace without justice. Mr. Adisa, what do you mean?
All right, so thank you once again for having me. It's so good to be here. You know, the particular comment you're referring to, I think I actually quoted the national anthem. You know, it said, where peace and justice shall reign. The natural tendency is that we all want peace, but the prerequisite is that, justice must always be served. In a situation where people see, if you like, people that have violated the laid down rules and laws and are going scot-free, and nothing is being done. Unfortunately, which is not what we recommend, people, tend to go into self-help. If government won't do this, then maybe I should do that. We know that doesn't work either, but, we've heard several comments of, the purpose of government, the reason why we surrendered our authority, our power, is that those that we have elected to represent us should provide these things so that we are not all having to provide it for ourselves. So where you find that there is no peace, there is no justice, people will want to, if you like, take back their authority. And that would lead to anarchy. It will look down to breakdown of law and order. So we don't recommend it, but just as it is, it's important that we always let justice reign. So if somebody is wrong, we need to call the person into order. If things are not done properly, we need to make sure, that's the place of restitution. That's the place of putting things right. Because if you don't have that,
who had obstructed justice or who had offended the law should be made to pay for it?
There are always, every time we make laws, we put penalties to those laws. So if we say if you break a road, your traffic offense, you have a traffic offense, then yes, you should be made to sort out what's the law says you should sort out.
But the phenomenon running through our system today is amnesty for criminals.
All right, so that's in itself. It's difficult to comment on that because I don't have all the information they have. If we look back over the years, we've seen time of Niger Delta. We've seen the Northeast. So there are different, if you like, strategies people employ. I've cautioned myself over the years not to speak over things I don't have all the information about. But from where we are sitting, you might wonder why should we be talking about amnesty here? But then those in authority may have looked at it and felt, look, in light of everything on ground, this might not be a war we would win easily. Maybe we should take the diplomatic strategy to get out. So I really, I'm mindful that I don't have all the information, and they are probably best to speak on it.
Okay, well, Honorable, thank you. From where we're also, observing things from, it's a very difficult one, because when you flip through the pages of our newspapers today, the programs that run on radio and TV, there's almost nothing else other than, security.
Yes.
Now, as a young Nigerian, beyond being, in politics, in governance, do you see this period as, something tougher than, we've been through maybe in the last 10, 15 years? Because it is almost difficult to give hope to people out there. Sometimes, even for us in the media, it's difficult to want to talk about something else, but people keep dragging you back. Oh, some days ago, somebody was kidnapped. Some times ago, people were killed. What do you think we should be doing at this point in time that we are not doing, or that we can do better on?
So I think, when you talk about security, I think even at the House of Assembly, it has become a more recurring theme over the last few weeks. People do not feel as safe as they used to. And that's the truth. And what we must do as government, what's primary responsibility according to the Constitution, Section 14.2, the security of lives and properties, that we must step up our game. You see, over the years, if it's not one thing, it's another thing. There will always be. It's the world we are living in. But I believe that we must be more proactive. Security is not, even police have gone into community policing. It's not only for a sector or for some people. We need to have a more assertive stance to security. When you talk about the consequences, it's huge in terms of revenue lost, no nightlife, dwindling and so on and so forth. So these are all real issues. We're talking about unemployment. If there was nightlife, more people will be employed. But then because of insecurity, we cannot have nightlife. So some people are losing jobs as well. So I think personally, what we should do more is we need to be more proactive. Everybody needs to get involved. We need to support the police. We need to support the security agencies. We need to be our brother's keeper. There's always an event that I always like to recollect. There was somebody in my constituency that had an accident on his Okada, and he was someone that I knew, so I decided to go and visit him. So he sent his daughter to come to the road to direct us to his house. And so when we got there, I even thought it was an older person, only for me to see like a 10-year-old. But do you know that even just speaking to her, people started observing? The moment we said, lead us to the place, people came in. And for me, I had to applaud them. That's security. For all they know, they see a car pull up, they see somebody talking to somebody, and then the person goes into the car. They immediately responded. That's security. That's people caring about each other. That's people watching out for each other. I don't think we have enough of that these days. So I think there's a part of government, but there's also a part that all of us have to play to ensure that security is better in Oyo State and Nigeria in general.
Well, another side that I would like to, I know Michael probably has got one or two questions, is
sure.
If you check the social media, there's a lot of push, to get a lot more people like you, young people, to venture into politics. Share with us your own experience, because for so many people that I've interacted with, they will tell you that, how do you balance your background as a lawyer and where you're coming from, and the fact that the way politics is played at the grassroots also requires that you must have, quote and unquote, what they call open arms. You have to be able to, do a lot of sharing. To that young person out there who is thinking, what's the way? What would be your own recommendation?
Okay, so I got asked a similar question this morning. I have the privilege of working with my boss, the late Governor Abiola Ajimobi, and I was privileged to be schooled by a great man, by somebody that knew how to succeed. He knew, what success was all about, and that gave me a lot of leverage. It gave me a lot of leverage. I saw how governance worked. I saw how to run systems. I saw public administration at its finest. I saw a lot of things. And when it came to the politicking side, I had to learn even some more lessons. Now, it is true that the way we play politics, when you get back to your constituencies, and every time people talk about politics, you look at it from maybe an Ibadan angle. If you go outside Ibadan, I think we're even more political. We're more, and so yes, people have this, what is in it for us, which is, how politics works, what's in it for us. But one of the things that helped me a lot is where everywhere I saw underdevelopment. So I got to a community, they didn't have lights, and I was able to facilitate a transformer. I got to places they didn't have water, and I was able to facilitate. And I use the word facilitate. I didn't buy it. I facilitated it. In some cases, you work with non-governmental agencies. In some cases, you lobby so that things are done, and so on and so forth. And the fact is that when people see development, do you understand, they get attracted to this person, and I think it helped me a lot. So I was able to facilitate.
But you require some resources to be able to do all of that.
Well, yes.
Because when you use the word facilitate,
in politics, it has a different meaning.
How do you just
so let me give you an example. During my campaign, I had friends in the private sector that came through. I had people that raised money with me. I had people that said, Sheyi, I'm an ICT expert. I'll come and do the training of youths in your constituency. I had people that came to me and said, Sheyi, I'll gather a group of 20 doctors who do a health mission that catered for over 4,000 people. Do you understand? So is where your mind is. Can it be done? I had a lot of things that, maybe other than me renting tables and chairs, I had people step up, but that's what you call social capital.
You're making me feel that you do not have a money bag behind you.
Now, I do not have a money bag.
Or maybe it's the money bag.
No, you know the word bankrolling.
No bankrolling here. I think, as I said, I had just worked in government. So I had relationships I could leverage on. Money is very important in politics as we play it today. And I cannot deny that. Every meeting you go for, something is expected. Every, program, it's unfortunate, but that's where we find ourselves. But more importantly is that there are other things you can leverage on other than that. Mikey. And you said, what about some young person? If people are not maybe in the position I was privileged to be in, they still have opportunities. I don't want to shut the roads for them as well.
Michael.
Okay, I would, digress a bit.
Sure.
I want to go to the State of Assembly.
Yes.
In Oyo State here. You are a member of the APC, you're a member of that house.
Yes.
That is set to, contain some of the youngest people in the history of the assembly in Nigeria. You're a beneficiary of the Not Too Young to Run movement, right?
Well, I think my age qualified me. We have people that are under 30.
Okay,
I'm over 30.
I know you're over 30. I was coming to talk about the incursion of young people on the political scene. Oyo State House of Assembly being one. A lot of people think that because you have a lot of young people in that assembly, that being forceful as a member of the House of Assembly would be difficult when you consider the executive and legislature relationship in the mix. How does that house, how does it manage, to navigate this terrain?
We have a younger governor too now, so everybody's we have younger people in general in office in Oyo State. I think what we've been able to identify with this house is there's been a lot of innovation, which we expect from young people. We've been more innovative. You can watch our plenary sittings live. It's on Facebook. We've passed a lot, according to the records, a lot of more motions and even bills at this stage compared to many of our predecessors that have also done well. So I think the youthfulness has not been a disadvantage. I think it has been. I think it has been an advantage where, the records speak for itself. More bills, more motions, a little bit of more creativity. I think is on the up, actually. The people like to push age a lot, especially when they want to show why, maybe something is not working or not. But when you look at it broadly, there is also a lot that our youthfulness has helped us with. I tend to see more of the innovation and the the drive that our assembly, the 9th Assembly, has been able to achieve than the fact that we don't have as many people. Bearing in mind, we also have a lot of experience, as we have Right Honorable Asimi Alarakwe, the minority leader that was there in the 4th Assembly. So we have a 70-year-old, I think. So we have some older hands, but yes, more young people, and I think it's giving us the vibrancy in the assembly. Okay,
so how much of that vibrancy plays into policy and policy formulation? Essentially, you are there because you are there to represent people. How have you been able to measure the policies and the laws that have emanated from that house against representation as a concept? sometimes I read in the newspapers recently that, for instance, that rapists were getting, stiffer punishment, quote and unquote. I looked at the law. Of course, we have Violence Against Persons Law. You have, Child Rights Act and all that. All these things are embedded. You see, my own question is the depth of debate that goes on at the House. I have questions about. I have seen one or two, times where there are these debates at that level, and that's why I asked that question, because a lot of young people are there, people who have not seen the House in terms of action or participation before, and I thought I should ask if indeed you have been able to measure some of these policies against why you are there in the first instance. And as against what the executive brings to the House and say, oh yeah, I approve.
No, I think I'm not so sure I totally agree with you. I think the House has, we have robust debates. I talked about experience. Yes, there are some greenhorn newcomers. I've been in government for 8 years before now. So there has to be Alarakpe, Right Honorable, who I think is his birthday today actually, had been there before now. So, we have Honorable Wumi. This is her second time. Exactly. We have people that have been local government chairmen. And so it's not totally, and then when you talk about debates, it's a point of view of what do you have to offer. And a lot of the people in the assembly, they're qualified professionals in one way or the other. Now, one of the innovations I was talking about is we have something called the legislative agenda. Yeah. The legislative agenda was us going around the 32 constituencies or 33 local governments and determining what people want. The first thing we realized is that job creation was the number one need in Oyo State. Okay. Economic empowerment, job creation. The second one that was related to it is poverty alleviation. Then we now went into education, health, and so on and so forth. And so those are the things that drive a lot of the motions and a lot of the bills that we bring up, because we want it to be people-based. We want it to be based on what the people want. The bill I have on the floor is the Enterprise and Employment Trust Fund. And that's supposed to help us to be able to get those that are looking for work with employers that have vacancies, but not just getting them, making sure they are trained and able to, they can become employable. And then for the enterprises to SMEs, how we can support them, whether it's through funding, whether it's through capacity building, So I don't see any issues with the debate in the House. I'm privileged. I've seen the 7th Assembly. I've seen the 8th Assembly, even though I was on the other side. And I don't think the 9th Assembly is doing any bad. In terms of what the governor brings, obviously, we have a majority of the governor's party. But even at that, where we have to speak, we speak, even though the majority will have his way, or we will say what we think ultimately. Sometimes people feel, it's not loud enough. But when they are 26-6, it's not much of a, so, but that's how it is. I think the debates are robust. I think we're doing a good job. We can do better. And the last thing I wanted to make sure is that please do not think that, we just came in and started working. We've been for several trainings. We have the YAGA, the Not Too Young to Wrong movement. We have the NAILS, the people that train the National Assembly. We've had several trainings with, foreign bodies and so on and so forth. And that has made us, better able to run, hit the ground running. So I see no issues there.
How do you respond to the perception that usually State House of Assembly members or State House of Assembly usually a rubber stamp to the executive?
Well,
particularly with what we get from you. The governor brings in 10 billion naira bond, you stamp it, he brings in another money he wants to borrow, he gets his way.
So let me borrow the words of my colleagues that are in the majority party. They say it is in line with the agenda they put to the people to vote for them. And so what the governor is doing is what he said he was going to do and he was voted for. And so the House will not be a hindrance to it. They will only support it. I have my reservations sometimes, and I make my voice heard. There are times where I have to say I do not agree with this. It will be overruled. the majority will have his way.
But it's a record that you say.
Oh, but it's in the hands that everything we say in the house is always recorded, and you can always go back and ask for it.
Okay, sorry, before we move away,
yes.
I want to take you to your constituency.
Sure.
Because that's very also important for me.
Yes.
And I'd like to ask you one or two questions there, but maybe just one. I come on if you did to Laura Jobele, Iluaji Ojutai, and the rest.
Yes.
Areas under your jurisdiction.
That's
as
correct.
A representative.
Yes.
I'm going to take just one. You know, Fidelity is a home of fruits.
That's correct.
Have you considered something that can help, you know, the post-harvest losses that we always have from agricultural produce in our local in our local areas, particularly from a place like where you come from? Any legislation towards that?
Okay, legislation towards that.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to talk about representation, then I'll go into legislation. You see, so I have one of my key principles to success is collaboration. To date, I have taken maybe more than 5 private organizations to different parts of Afidjo to see how we can collaborate. If we're going to find jobs, we must use our competitive advantage. Afidjo is an agrarian society, and so agric is our advantage. And that's where we're looking to get jobs for young people through that system. But for us to get jobs, we need to take agric away from production. We need to get into processing, into packaging, into storage. And that's what some of the things that we are trying to do. So yes, we've spoken to several organizations as to coming to set up their plants. We've also spoken to several organizations about empowering these young people. About 15 of my constituents were IITA. They've just finished training for aquaculture. Another set are there now for poultry. And, you know, what we're talking about now is how to set up. They're coming together as a cooperative, like a cluster. And we're talking about, and because they understand production, processing, they're coming together to do the entire line, and we're going to help them raise funds for that. You know, so we've considered it, and we continue to consider it. From the legislative point of view, there's the law that was amended, which is the OISADA, which is now the Agribusiness Development Agency, that the headquarters was moved to Shaki. That is supposed to promote agribusiness and bring in investors to enter the value chain so that we leave this subsistent, small-scale farming into large-scale and extend the value chain so that more young people can get into it. And I believe that law sufficiently covers what we need in Oyo State at this time.
Tunde.
Well, just still looking at what specifically you're doing in Afidjo, which is your constituency. You're almost halfway into, you know, the mandate that you have. In specific, outside of, you know, the points you've raised, what are the key things you would say you've done for the people who voted you in, and by the time you're done, you know, what is it that you want to say, this is my legacy, this is the most important thing I've done for the people?
So my ideology, and people will say you don't hear ideology much in politics, but my ideology is what I call politics of development. That's development of people and development of our communities. And because I believe politics...
Even as a legislator?
Yes, absolutely. I don't really... Titles are good, but if I can do much more than legislate, I will be a disadvantage not to do that. I've worked with a governor for 8 years. I know how to get things done with all humility. So for me personally, as a legislator, we have 3 main roles: to legislate, oversight, which is watch the executive, and representation. From a point of view of representation, the first thing, let me talk about job creation. In November, we started our second TVET program, TVET Technical Vocational Education Training. We trained 50 people in supply chain, caregiving and hospitality, and hair care and beauty. Of those 50, about 27 or 8 are engaged now. Either they are in jobs or they have started their own businesses. The remaining, we're also trying to get them involved.
All drawn from
all from Afijo, absolutely. After that, we moved into the IITA batch that I said have just finished aquaculture, and there were others going into poultry. So I'm heavy on youth engagement and ensuring that young people create businesses and get jobs. It is primary on my assignment. Before I got into office, I did 100 youth in 2018 going into 19, 100, and some of them are still engaged till today. So youth engagement is extremely important. Another part for me is education. In January last year, I did a back to school. We shared almost 10,000 different materials, from books to uniform to textbooks to school bags, water bottles, and the likes. Again, this is where I always go, with help from different people, not just myself. There was no way I could raise that sort of money, but we collaborated with NGOs and we're able to deliver it to our people. So education is students, is teachers, and is infrastructure. So that was for students. For teachers, we did a training, digital training. Some of them I saw later during the COVID. It was that digital training that allowed them to do Google Classrooms and do some other things, because they were trained in digital, how to prepare for your classroom and all of those things. Then for infrastructure, we've renovated several schools, we've painted blocks and so on and so forth. So education, we've been very strong there. In health, I have gone.
Don't go ahead.
Okay,
Michael.
Okay, I want to do a rider to the question that she asked you.
Sure.
Where is in your coverage area?
It is my town.
I know that there was this silo.
Yes.
Right?
We were at that silo.
There, we visited. That place has been moribund even before it started. I am bothered by the fact that it has not been, running. Now, of course, I know that there are legal issues around it. But tell us what the House of Assembly is looking. Oyo State is largely agrarian.
Yes.
And just like Sheon said, a lot of post-harvest losses are recorded.
Yes.
I thought that the emphasis of everything that will be done at that level will be to talk about how to make agric work,
yes,
and particularly bring agric infrastructure to life.
Yes.
Tell us.
So the last I heard.
Oh, you heard?
The last I heard from the statement from, I believe it was the Chief Press Secretary of His Excellency, is that China coronavirus delayed implementation. I must remind you that this isn't a new project. This is a project that was on from the last administration.
Yes.
There were loads of delays, and I know there was a time the contractor was going to be sent packing. The new administration thought otherwise to continue. Further funds were released, and Corona, I understand, is what is delaying it. I think the honest truth is that, these are some of the things that we need to really focus on. If we are serious about our Greek, if we are, if we mean business, we have to get into those things. And that our, as I said, is my town. We're particular about it. We want it to work. We're expectant, but we understand there are still further delays, and we hope it will be sorted out very quickly.
Mr. Adisa,
yes.
It would be unfair to let you go without talking about security. Are we doing well at all?
About security?
Yes.
I think if we ask the average person on the streets, they're not comfortable with the current security situation.
You also said on this table that we're not feeling safe.
Yeah, I reported what we said in the House of Assembly, that, if you listen to our last 2 or 3 debates, security has been the topmost situation on our minds.
What are we doing?
Well, several things. As legislators, the Committee on Security has met with the security agencies severally. But this is a board that falls, largely in terms of governance on the table of the executive. We keep, encouraging, pushing and saying, look, let's work, let's make this happen. But, when you speak to the security agencies, they have many restrictions. Some will say it's infrastructure, some will say it's a gadget, some will say we are not, so there are so many things. But from the House, we're ensuring the laws are there, everything is there, but it really lies on the table of the executive to make us feel safer.
The inter-ethnic, inter-religious committee,
yes,
what happened to it? You talked about Security Council.
Yes.
We have been reacting.
So the ethnic interreligious was a committee we had in the last administration, and the idea is just once you are talking, you can always bring issues to the table before there is misunderstanding. Once there's an avenue, there's a platform that we can always come and sit. And I did this last week Wednesday in my constituency. I had the police, the Amotekun, the SSS, the civil defense, the Fulani heads, Fulani Hausa community, the farmers, and the Obas.
You pulled them together.
I brought all of them together, and we spoke for over 2 hours. And we left shaking hands and smiling with each other. That is me in my constituency. That is what I expect at the state level we ought to be doing as well, to ensure, and in every community really, that these conversations are going on. So where there will be breakdown, we can tell ahead of time and we can try and nip it in the bud, because there is an avenue for that. In terms of Security Council meeting, I speak from experience that every month we used to have council meeting whereby all the security agencies would come and give reports. But as I said, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure if that is going on or not.
Gentlemen.
Okay, so I'm told we have a break. Before we
are going.
Okay, before we go, you see, we'll be slapping ourselves if we don't talk about politics.
Sure.
You're a member of the APC.
Yes.
Your party, how strong is that party to compete? And when I talk about compete, you know what I'm talking about.
I think if we look at the registration exercise going on, it will give you a snapshot that APC is in no way a weak party. It is extremely strong. And I use the word extremely. So the forms that were brought to the different units, a lot of them have been exhausted, and we're waiting for more. And people are clamoring for more forms to come in. So I have no doubt that the party is strong. You will see it bounce back, and people should quickly join, not miss the train.
You are not campaigning. I'm just for members here now.
No, I'm just saying the fact that registration is ongoing and that people can take the opportunity.
Dakola, just returned to the APC.
He did. He came to the program I was at this morning, showing that.
What does that bring to the table?
He brings another solid politician on the table. Yes.
Today you have to go.
Well, just my own final take from this side is that some people have said, look, if you're a politician trying to make a huge impact, maybe the State House of Assembly is not the place for you. Maybe you should start with the Federal House of Representatives, because at the state level, like you said, even though, yes, it operates at the federal level too, the majority will have its way, even though the minority will have its say, but it's more pronounced at the state level because you seem to be at the mercy of the governor. Have you thought about this, that maybe I should have gone for the House of Reps?
No experience is ever wasted. I am enjoying my time in the House. I have learned a lot. And I think you can
feel choked?
No, I think you can make impact where you put your mind to it. I'm trying my best to make impact. And I have, a speaker that has tried to keep the House balanced. So, no, I don't feel choked. I feel I'm contributing my part. And Oyo State will definitely get better.
All right, so Mr. Shiyadisa, we must thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have any word for your constituents?
Well, Akiwo, I know this is not a Yoruba program, but
answer Yoruba.
They know that their honorable loves them and is working for them, and I want them to know that I will not stop until we bring the dividends of democracy in its entirety to them. Thank you very much.
I wish you had this. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Must thank you. Michael, thank you for being here. Tunde, thank you also for being here. Oluwaseun says, an average Mikra driver in Ibadan pays nothing less than 700 naira per day, and only 200 naira goes to the government. Where is the remaining 500 naira going to? This NURTW body is also almost richer than some states in Nigeria. As a comment on Twitter, I must thank everyone for being part of this program. I'm Oluwaseun of Akinola. Nigeria will succeed.
Splash FM 105.5.
Ibadan. 9 Mobile 4G LTE has landed, and we are in for the time of our lives. Streaming matches